Well, Sram have come out swinging today with a couple of exciting new product announcements. Firstly, we've got the all-new Motive brakes, and then we've got the latest version of the transmission. This transmission, if you have a little look though, has a bit of a difference than anything we've seen before. Blake, tell us about the transmission.
We've put a cable back in there. So obviously Sram have been going ham on the electronic shifting for many years now. Obviously they've pioneered it. They've, in my mind, perfected it. I don't know how it could possibly get any better from there. But naturally, there is still some people out there, and fair enough, that are die-hard cable addicts. And look, you know, I took to the svelte look of the axis shifting like duck to water. I absolutely loved it. I like to tech out a little bit and nerd out on that sort of stuff. But I did have a bit of nostalgia when I was doing the internal cable routing on this bike. And look, I didn't hate it. And I really actually have quite liked this stuff out on the trail.
Tell us a bit about the difference in terms of, obviously we've got a new shifter here as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of when you're shifting the performance with this transmission versus all of the, because there's what, 5 or 6 different versions, isn't it? Different levels of group sets with the transmission. Tell us a bit about the shifting performance.
The performance itself, it could be the same product. If you had the exact same tactile feel under your thumb, you wouldn't know the difference. If anything, maybe it feels a little bit more direct. Obviously you've got a physical sort of connection there somewhat. But the actual feeling that you're getting out of the pedals and the interface between the chain and the cassette and the derailleur, for that matter, the jockey wheels, it feels basically the same. You don't have a little beep beep like you've got your old school click out of the shifter.
And it's that familiar SRAM click too, isn't it? It's very positive, like click, click, you know you've got a full gear change.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just cool to see that back in the range, you know, because it's been quite a few years, I guess, since we've had support with the Axis stuff. A lot of similarities crossing over, obviously the big cassette as we expect, but a couple of really cool kind of filter down things we've seen from the Axis transmission is the setup. Now we mentioned we built this bike up ourselves. The weight of the rear mech is substantially less than an Axis, maybe in the motor and whatnot out. I was really surprised how light it was.
Yeah.
But in terms of the setup, a lot of the carryover cues are the same there as well. So tell us a bit about what it's like set up. It's
essentially the same as setting up, you know, your normal transmission group set. So basically, run your cable, you get an initial cable tension setup, you get it up into your indicated setup gear. So you've got the little red nylon ring through the middle of the cassette there. And basically you just tune your cable tension from there until you've got that sort of sweet spot of your chain sounding just right on your cassette, and you're away. There's no B tension.
All gone.
There's no high-low limit screws. Basically you set up your chain length, whether you're doing that off the paper supplied or you jump onto the SRAM website, it'll tell you for every bike what chain length you need. You set it up into the A or the B section depending on your frame, and you're away. Like, it's literally, to put the grip set on this bike was 10 minutes, if that.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, those limit screws you're talking about, that's where a lot of people, especially at home, DIYing, they get lost in where to get the derailleur, so it's right in line with each of those gears. So super cool that SRAM made it so user-friendly to set this thing up yourself without having to go down to a bike shop, shell out that cash. Mate, let me tell you a bit about these brakes because I'm pretty excited. These are the Motives. I thought they kind of look like Mavens. Now, it's interesting that you say, well, that we say they look like Mavens, is because there's been a lot of design cues that SRAM discovered whilst they developed Maven. Obviously, one of the big things we should probably address straight away is that dot fluid is gone. They're running mineral, just like the SRAM kind of went to with Maven. Obviously, the performance increase, especially the longevity, the cut down in service intervals. There's a lot of gains to be made from going to a mineral fluid. So yeah, really cool to see that they've utilized that. Now, another thing they've done is they've gone with a larger caliper design. The reason they're doing that is because that way they can actually reduce the size of everything else in the brake system or the brake ecosystem. So you drop the rotor size, but you still got plenty of power. One of the things that a lot of the keyboard warriors jumped on when SRAM released the Mavens was that because of the dual link design internally in the lever, it took a little bit more pressure applied to get the lever moving into its, would you say, travel? The initial stroke of that, your piston there, So now they've gone with a direct lever, direct link internally, and it's just buttery smooth, like literally, you know, you could give birth to a baby tomorrow, and with those tiny little fingers, they could be pulling on these brakes like that. That easy to get into the stroke. Really, really nice, concise lever feel. especially, you know, even on long runs from top to bottom, or when the, you know, first hop on the bike and it's cool, so to speak, to when it gets hot. Really, really consistent. Of course, you can run, you know, there's SRAM offer a couple of different rotor sizes, again, depending on what you're chasing in terms of the amount of power or bite. But interestingly, the Motive's actually replacing SRAM's level brake. So level is what we're seeing on like XC bikes or trail bikes up to something with sort of, you know, 150 mil. And then obviously there's code, but you know, the way I'd probably think of it is that the Maven would sort of then take over from that 150 mil. So yeah, the new Motive is really designed for a trail riding experience or trail riding application.
Exactly.
With plenty of power. But how do they actually feel out on the trail?
Out on the trail, honestly, it just feels like a code. It feels like a code with a bit more of a refined lever feel. And I've always been a long-term code fan. I've always preferred to be a little bit over-braked than under-braked, depending on the bike. But you know, the initial setup of these brakes, again, super simple. We hadn't actually received the media pack by the time I started building this bike up, so we're sort of going, where is this going to fit in the lineup?
Surely
it's got a, that's what we're thinking. We're like, it's got to be a code, but like this, you know, there's nothing to the lever or that sort of thing. But it makes total sense on what SRAM are, you know, doing with their approach to these brakes. It makes so much sense to have, you know, a larger caliper. Obviously, that's where the heat's generated, is down there at the rotor and the caliper. So you want a little bit more fluid down there, a little bit more surface area with your pistons, that kind of thing. And then you can afford to cut a little bit of weight and that kind of thing back up at the lever where, you know, I mean, eventually the heat would get up there through the in this case, mineral oil, but it just doesn't need to be big and bulky up at the lever end necessarily. So yeah, but out on the trail, they're as bitey as anything.
They feel super smooth.
Yeah.
So yeah, Motive are going to be coming, like we saw with Maven, in 3 different levels, or 3 tiers. We're going bronze, silver, and then we go the ultimate that we've got here, which we'll be kind of spoiled to. The green is a custom, or it's a limited edition colorway. But yeah, pricing is really sharp on these guys, and best of all, that in SRAM deals across Australia and the world, if you're watching from elsewhere, right now, they're available as of today that they've just gone live. So a couple of really exciting releases from SRAM here. Little birdie has whispered in my ear that there might be some new stuff coming out from RockShox in the next week or so. So stay tuned. As always, SRAM are coming swinging and then only delivering the goods. So some really impressive stuff here. Stay tuned to our channel to check out more.